If those fantasies tend to be wild and kinky and associated with shame, they shouldn't. I ask myself a question. It is a question I particularly enjoy asking myself. It's, what would I do sexually if sexuality was completely free of shame? And as in completely devoid of any shame associated with it. What would I do? And I find the question itself and the mental exercise liberating. I find like a weight is lifted off of me and I can think freely. That I don't have to censor myself because of artificial rules that were invented for no longer relevant purposes. I can think about it freely, and I particularly enjoy that. I came to the realization some time ago that indeed shame should be removed from sexuality. There is no reason to be ashamed about your sexual desires and erotic nature, almost whatever they may be. There's very few cases, I think, where one would have to question, am I normal? And those cases are in the extreme, along the lines of, I don't know, child pornography and things having to do with actual murder, let's say. But outside of that, it's okay, it's normal. If you are towards the straight spectrum, towards the gay spectrum, towards the bisexual spectrum. Notice that I'm saying spectrum because we find that sexual orientation is on a spectrum, and it's not black or white or gray or green, it is a rainbow. It's okay, you're normal. If you use fantasies and if you don't, it's okay, it's normal. If those fantasies tend to be wild and kinky and associated with shame, they shouldn't. There's no need, no real reason why shame exists with regards to sexuality. You may think that sexual shame is primarily directed towards women, and you would have a point. There's a lot of shame directed towards women, but it's also subtly, perhaps more subtly, directed towards men. You are taught as a man to not show emotion, not show vulnerability, and with regards to sexuality, you're taught to conquer a woman. You are taught that you have a specific role to play and you must play it successfully, else you are not a real man. Actually, the notion of a real man is along the lines of emotional torture for most men. They have to follow a specific path, and while I wouldn't want to switch with most women where they have to really conquer a lot of shame. Men have some issues as well. Why does that exist? Why does the shame exist? Well, because sexuality was connected to having offspring, and because having offspring was connected to the transfer of property between families, and that sort of power transfer was tremendously important to our society for hundreds of years, and by no means should it have been left up to love or to sexual desires. So at least one sex had to take the brunt and safeguard the family's property by not screwing around. That's why shame exists, and currently that shame is eroding very nicely throughout practically all the cultures in the world. And it is a beautiful sight to see. It should erode, in my opinion, and we can already glimpse the future where it will be done away with altogether. How would that look like? How would people behave? Well, firstly, it would look like a place where sexual orientation is no longer taboo. It is freely discussed, and it is just a normal part of life. It will look like a place a lot closer to gender equality, where women do not lose value, do not become slightly subhuman with the number of sexual partners they had. And men do not gain value with the number of sexual partners they had. Or perhaps both genders gain value. Who knows? Anyway, equality would be much closer when we remove shame from sexuality. And our society itself, I think, would be much more efficient. We're wasting so much time, money, and resources constraining this aspect, which has no business being constrained, where we could use them in advancing the evolution of mankind, not hindering it.